Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Get started. Eden Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network, Dr. Amit Goswami, quantum science pioneer. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you.
Yes, and you're apparently in Arizona. You were supposed to be in Florida, but some things happened with your flight, so you're still there.
Yes. Yes, there have been hurricanes in the East Coast, so we could not go back to Florida where we catch another plane.
Okay. Well, I like Arizona, so that's nice. All right. So today we are going to move more into the quantum. So you guys know that I am a quantum girl, yet I don't go into the science of it. So more feeling, intuition, and work in several dimensions and go beyond the veil. So this will be really somewhat outside of my comfort zone, but not. Haha. And we are also, I also want to talk a little bit today about specifically in America that there is this movement right now, moving away from God, the universe, consciousness. Again, if you can't see it, not to believe in it. So I do want to discuss that today because there is, from my experience with clients too, a growth of loneliness, of agnosticism. And for me, without having that connection to all that is, I would be lonely too. Wow. And before we begin, I'm going to read a bio in a second. I do want to mention I will be posting or be hosting live consistently now for Humanity's team, doing a live podcast for them at least once a month. So just to put a post out there, my next one will be November 6th at 12 Eastern time, and it will be with Dr. Karen Frances McCarthy, PhD. She's an Irish medium, best-selling author, and public speaker, and I will post the link to that as soon as I get it. Anyone can join. It'll be fun. Okay, finish with that. Now, let me read your lovely bio, and then we'll get into more. Amit Goswami, PhD, professor, researcher, best-selling author, quantum science pioneer, spiritual practitioner. He is a retired professor from the physics department of the University of Oregon from 1968 to 1997. He is a renowned pioneer of the new paradigm of quantum science based on the primacy of consciousness, meaning consciousness first, if that's correct. In 2009, Amit started a movement called quantum activism, now gaining in strength in North America and South America, where he has founded Quantum Academy. Okay, it's also gaining ground in Europe and India. At the same time, he has established the Center for Quantum Activism with headquarters in the USA. In 2019, he and his collaborators established an educational wing of the Center for Quantum Activism called Quantum Activism, and you're going to have to pronounce this, please.
Vishalayam.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Home of the world, acting as Department of Quantum Science at the University of Technology in Jaipur, India, and developed a master and PhD program in quantum science of health, prosperity, and happiness, an international program of transformative education. Oh, there's more. Y'all hang on. Dr. Goswami has written several groundbreaking popular books based on research on quantum science and consciousness, amongst them Quantum Integrative Medicine, Hero's Journey, Quantum Style, The Quantum Brain, The Return of Archetypes, Quantum Spirituality, and The Re-Enchantment of the Reality You Live. All of these with Dr. Valentina Onasaur. Okay, and she will be on the show in December. Quantum Physiology and the Science of Happiness with, please say her name. I tried to find a video, but I couldn't. Sunita?
Sunita Patani.
Okay.
Sunita Patani.
Thank you. The Self-Aware Universe, The Quantum Doctor, Physics of the Soul, Quantum Creativity, and I love this, the Everything Answer book. All right, Dr. Amit was featured in the 2004 movie What the Bleep Do We Know, which I watched it again. It has tremendous legs still after these 20 years, and I know several people that was a groundbreaking movie for them. Okay, he was also in the documentaries, The Dalai Lama Renaissance and The Quantum Activist. To conclude, he is a spiritual practitioner and calls himself a quantum activist in search of wholeness. Wow, that's some good stuff there. Okay, I've seen you on many interviews with scientists, so that is not me. So knowing that you can also break this down very simple. Yet I also want to know, how did you know that this new earth is coming, that we are evolving, that humanity is evolving? How did you become aware of that?
Well, especially recently, there is some new data, anthropological data, which is clearly showing the spiritual history of humanity, which of course brings us to the current age. It started something like 100, maybe 200,000 years ago. We started the process, what anthropologists call self-domestication. Domestication we know, but humans had to do it themselves. There was no other guru, teacher, or species that would have to teach us. We had to teach ourselves. What does it consist of? It consists of the ability of suspending our defensiveness towards anyone. Any stimulus that threatens our survival, immediately there is defensiveness arising in many people. This we inherited from animals. Self-domestication enables us to suspend that defensiveness. So it's an effect on the immune system. And we do this through the archetypal exploration of the archetype of goodness. And believe it or not, we began this process probably hundreds of thousands of years ago, and then ended this process. We succeeded in completing that process of self-domestication roughly around 70,000 years ago. But some of us went on and continued the exploration of the archetype of goodness and embodied it some more, and that had led to the phenomenon of altruism, the ability that many humans have, about 40% of humans have, automatically. If we see somebody in distress, some human beings in distress, we have an urge to help the person. It's almost an instinct. Unfortunately, 40% of us don't have this, and 20% have it to some extent. So this is the human condition, basically, but human beings developed other archetypal embodiments as well. Many of us have the capacity of loving, romantic love, for example, but some don't. We have to remember that. Maternal love, that's universally we have, universally meaning all mothers have, and women basically have it as an instinct. Of course, not everybody gets to embody it because, some people stay unmarried for their whole life or not have a permanent partner, intimate partner. So except for those cases, motherly instinct for women is a universal attribute. So in this way, we have the capacities of archetypal exploration and embodiment. Archetypes are divine attributes. Archetypes are the attributes of spirituality. It is embodying these archetypes that we become spiritual. What does it mean? Spiritual means that ordinary ego consciousness is contracted, very me-centered. I only care about myself. I talk with you, relate with you only because it will benefit me. I always ask a transactional question. What is in it for me? If I see in you something that I can use, then only I'll relate with you. You can see this everywhere today, everywhere. But spirituality is the ability of including the other. Spirituality is the ability of expanded consciousness. Expanded means that I'm not only worried about myself, of course I am, but I'm also worried about you. I also care about you. So when I do things, I not only care about what will happen to me, I also care about what will happen to the people that I care about. My intimate relations with my family, my community, my country, even my world, the entire planet. So in this way, the idea of archetypal exploration embodiment is the purpose of humanity, and humanity is struggling. There's now clear history that humanity is struggling for the last 70,000 years to complete this process. So what happens if we don't embody the archetypes? We remain animals to that extent. We deviated from animality in a major way, self-domestication. So everybody is self-domesticated. So we have never completely had animal. But people are to some extent still a lot of animality they carry. And then more we embody the archetypes, less animal we become. And the idea is that we'll become someday fully human when we'll embody the archetypes. At that point, we achieve wholeness. So this is the basic idea of the spiritual history. When that happened, nobody knows. The way we are now is very hard to predict anything. But I'm very optimistic.
I am too, because I'm seeing, especially in my work, there's a lot of, and I equate a lot of this to vibration and energy. Just there is so much goodness out there. And if we focus on that, I also believe that we see more of it. I don't know how you came to start even doing this work and then stretching into the spirituality of science. Okay, first, as a young child, were you directed into this? And then how did it branch from there?
Well, my father was a spiritual man, so he helped me a
Oh,
lot in terms of getting a glimpse of what it means to have spirituality. I could sit in his presence, I would be very upset, and just sitting with him brought peace to me. I still remember very much that experience of but just being in proximity with someone, you can become peaceful. And of course, when I entered school, and I was separated from my parents for a while.
yeah.
During that time, I entered school for the first time. My parents homeschooled me for the first 11 years. And that experience, school experience, was very science oriented. I like science because it's verifiable. Some things about spirituality bothered me because this idea of peace and wholeness, my parents would teach it, both parents in their own ways, but in their behavior, I could clearly see that they're not always whole. They don't live wholeness. They don't have that capacity all the time. And this bothered me, that they talk about a lot more things that they cannot really illustrate in their living.
Mm.
There's I constantly see struggle between my mother and my sister-in-laws, that perpetual struggle that people talk about in joint families. So when science came and I got the idea that things can be verified, then I was super delighted. So delighted that I have more and more into science and became quite a materialist. And that went on for until I was
Wow.
36. And I had a very special experience. In that experience, the idea came to me all of
Okay,
a
what
sudden.
happened? Please explain or go into more detail about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but details, well, I was at a conference to give a invited talk, which is somewhat of a prestigious thing to do. So I was quite happy when I began the day. I gave my lecture. It was the very first opening lecture in that session. And I was feeling good. And then the next speaker started speaking, and I all of a sudden started feeling that he's doing better than I did in terms of lecturing. And when the lecture ended, people are asking questions, and I also felt that he's getting a better reception for his talk. And that made me very jealous. I never had this encounter with jealous energy like that before. Speaker after speaker after speaker, as conferences go, and I'm feeling jealousy after jealousy after jealousy. This went on and on. In the evening, I was at a party. Even there, I was jealous. Why? Because although I was a married man and really not interested in any other woman, but I got jealous because women are not paying attention to me. They're paying attention to other people more. So this jealous energy continued until 1 a.m. I got very, very disgusted with myself. I had a bucket of Tums. I exhausted those antacid tablets. And then I exhausted them. I had no recourse but to just face with my heartburn, face my jealousy. So I thought at least the least I could do is to take a break and go outside. So I went outside. The conference was at a beach. And this idea came to me all of a sudden with the ocean air cooling my face. And the idea was, why do I live this way? And the answer also came immediately. The answer was that I don't have to. I can integrate my life with what I do for a living. So this was the beginning of the exploration of wholeness, how to achieve wholeness.
Okay, so you went outside, the ocean was there. Was it just kind of a captivating moment, or just like everything became whole in your body when you felt those words, held those words? And then did things change literally the next day? How did it go? So intriguing.
I wouldn't so dramatize it, but the idea did come suddenly. This much I can say, and I also can say that it was unexpected. I did not expect to hear my wherever that came from, the intuition or assurance, whatever conviction that I don't have to live this way. I don't have to live this divided way. I was completely convinced that I can integrate my livelihood, thinking. And that complete conviction helped me all the subsequent years since then. I'm now 87, so it has been 50 years. And I have been able to make pathway success towards that journey. By no means complete, but this journey was extremely, extremely wonderful.
Oh, that's so great. So after you had that experience, did it start integrating pretty immediately, or did it take time?
It took a while. The immediate integration that took place was that my marriage was very unhappy, so I got divorced.
Ooh,
And
that's a big one.
coincidentally, America was a very conservative country before, but then right around that time, fortunately, divorce by simple procedure, not requiring both people to agree, that law was passed, and that enabled me to get a divorce. So this later on, I understood that this is a incident which can be called a synchronicity. Synchronistically, at that time, the law permitted me to get a divorce, because before then it was not so easy to get a divorce from a marriage. That started it. I got a remarriage again, coincidentally. What happened was that second wife, herself a divorced woman, she started some basic questions about how to relate to people. Like I would tell her I love you with the idea of manipulating her, but she would immediately say, "You are not saying that, meaning that. You were just saying it."
I'm moving away from my microphone. I love it. Okay, she said, "You're saying it, but you're not really meaning it."
Right.
Yeah.
And that got me very startled, and I would argue with her, but then I realized that really she has something, and that started me looking at spirituality and meditation and relationships, vital energy and feelings, and eventually develop a science of the whole thing, consciousness, feelings, the whole enchilada.
Okay, so she deserves a lot of credit then.
It deserves a lot of credit.
Mm. I love that. I love that she just wouldn't take "I love you." without feeling, because that would be how I am. Okay, thank you so much for going through your past. I love that story. And I hadn't heard that on other shows, but I'm sure there was one. When you started going more into this feeling and the quantum and the spirituality and meditation, and then bring that into the science, did a lot of your fellow scientists look at you going, what are you doing? This makes no sense. How did you, because to be a pioneer, sometimes you got to step out and step up and have criticism.
It was a little difficult. I still remember I had this very dear friend, my colleague in the physics department, who and I worked together every day. We would have lunch together. We were just, the dynamic duo. Some people used to call us in the department. And, one day after all these changes started happening to me, we are still friends.
Yeah.
We are still talking. But one day I just blurted out that, look, really, I have a new way of doing physics that I'm exploring. We really, must have a way of integrating science and mysticism. And I still remember when he heard the word mysticism, he literally jumped 3 paces back from me. And after that, we never could become close. We just lost the close friendship that we had developed for 6 years by then.
What was
So,
that like? So he basically was repulsed by what you said. So after that, no communication, no nothing.
oh,
That
well,
was it.
we tried a few times, but no communication, no trust. He wouldn't trust me. He
Oh.
thought I've gone crazy, quote unquote,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So mysticism, this idea of looking at the quantum worldview, literally quantum worldview suggests that there are 2 domains of reality. And I began to take this 2 domains, second domain of potentiality, very seriously. And
Mhm.
that's what differentiates between people who are called mystics and people who are called realists. Realists believe only in one domain of reality, space and time, where experiences happen. But psychologists, of course, talking about unconscious, and generally people believe in the unconscious, but they never think about it. Where is the unconscious? Unconscious couldn't be here in space and time. That's pretty obvious. But people keep it implicit so that nobody can ask these deep questions. Where is the unconscious? I asked those questions, and of course, that's what led me to my big discoveries. But this is really a fantastic limitation that we impose upon ourselves, and the media goes along with it, scientists go along with it,
Yes.
everybody goes along with it except the practitioners, the psychologists who have to actually deal with actual people, they're suffering. And they realize that, no, we cannot go along with it. So Abraham Maslow, of course, had transpersonal psychology. That's one avenue where they declared, no, there is another domain of reality. We have consciousness beyond the ego. Carl Jung also said the same thing, collective unconscious. Freud started it with the concept of unconscious, although he was a materialist, but he could not refuse his own experience with his patients, that people are indeed doing things that are not produced in space and time, doing things because some other domain of consciousness guides them to do those things. They call it unconscious or subconscious, repressed memory and desires and stuff. So on one hand, we had psychological models that were already proposing something that quantum physics is supporting. On the other hand, what quantum physics is supporting and what theories were showing finally came to experimental data. Experimental data started verifying. But people can be so obtuse today that even in spite of this
Yes.
experimental data, which has existed now, get this, for more than 4 decades, even
Mhm.
then, scientists don't accept that there is a second domain of reality, higher domain of reality, that actually, if we investigate it, we can investigate with creativity that gives us positive information, positive ways of living, compared to what Freud initially discovered. Only on negativity comes from this unconscious,
Yes.
repressed aspect. But quantum physics is saying, no, there is a lot of new potentiality, like transpersonal psychology, they're saying the same thing. A lot of potentiality that can transform us, that can bring us closer together, that can enable us to love each other, to be peaceful with each other. This is the message of quantum physics.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you, why do you think, even with all this data, that people, I'll use the word resist it? Why do they
Well,
resist it?
it's very simple. We, unfortunately, as I said very early, in domestication, we have been self-domesticated, but many people have not even developed altruism, the ability of helping others in distress.
Okay.
You have to believe it. You really have to believe it. If in America, we can see it today. There really are 50%, or roughly a little less than 50%, thank heavens, because still the country, I hope, can maintain democracy. But about 45, 47% of people really don't even have altruism in their brain circuits. And what happens then is that they just naturally are very me-centered. They cannot see another person. They literally cannot see, except what they are taught in schools. They're taught certain behavior. Of course, they can do those behaviors, but anybody can manipulate them and make them fearful, negative emotions. And when their survival is threatened, they become totally animalistic, totally animal. I do not see anybody, another human being, as somebody to help. I'm always against everybody inside. Whoever is not supporting me, that's an enemy. And so this definition of enemy expanded to even to your own community, people in your own community, people in your own, sometimes in your own household. People in America today have fight back out between husband and wife. They're divorcing each other because one has discovered altruism, has loved generally the woman, and the man is absolutely misogynistic. Unless the woman submits to him completely, they cannot stay in relationship. So it has become this bad. And so from this to go into a higher state of consciousness, even to make a decision is hard, because when so many people are taking the path of negativity, for us to decide that no, we'll be positive anyway, is hard, because negative tendencies we still have, I still have many negative tendencies. Usually the positive tendencies can keep them in balance. But sometimes, I see I don't get angry per se, not anymore. I don't get upset per se, not anymore. But I can see that their tendencies are still there. I have to literally use my positive energies to balance the negative. But this capacity requires a meditative life. Unless you meditate and you know that you don't have to express your negativity just because you're having them, that ability only can come through meditation and transformation. So
Can I plug into that one? Because I feel that meditation is so important. Yet I will tag on to you. I'm still a very saucy person, and I really like passionate. Yet I'm really also, because I think this all leads into vibration and consciousness as well, much more peaceful. And especially the past couple weeks, little old triggers are coming up to needle me, to get me to see what I'll do with them. And I've really, I feel, done a really good job at starting to let go of control, of really on a new level, just being this peace and being this happiness. I'll have to add this into. I did a what I consider a big speech a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of fear in the room, and spirit consciousness or whatever just said, hey, you just need to get up there and you just need to be hope and trust and positivity. And it was wonderful, because I like I like being the face of that. I like being hope, and I like being happy, because it just feels so good. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think greatly of that. That is how it happens. we get the idea that we don't have to suppress, we don't have to express, we can just meditate on our negativity and then positivity comes to rescue us. But notice that you have the positivity already in your brain because you have been good to people. Anytime you are good to people, we build a little brain circuit that goodness is possible. And if we continue to be good to people, continue to be good in our relationships, continue to be positive, then the positive emotions will grow and grow and grow in the brain and balance the negative.
Yes.
It's
All right.
that mystery in this. It's very simple. The recipe is extremely simple. Of
It
course,
is.
creativity in that, and if we concentrate on developing this creative way of changing completely, taking quantum leaps. In creativity comes with quantum leap, we say. Transformation, real transformation. And real transformation just means this, that then you can be good even without making the effort. Goodness becomes your nature. So what you described is the beginning. That is goodness, where an intuition comes that, yes, I can be good, although negativity is coming, and you became good in the process. But this is momentary. Again, the situation will arise, and that situation, this may not happen. But when you make the quantum leap, then this usually happens, easy without effort, as Abraham Maslow once put it. So this condition, to get that condition, which we call transformation, is the issue. Unfortunately, transformation requires a little change in the lifestyle. And these people are very reluctant to do.
Yes. Yes. Okay, talk more on that lifestyle change. What do you see within that? How would people change their lifestyle? Because we are brought, I feel, into this world. The lizard brain, if you want to call it that, the amygdala, that fear. Yes, we respond to fear. So to break out of that pattern, to move into this quantum consciousness, right now, for a lot of us, it does take work. But like what you said too, it really is easy when you start stepping into it. And it is, I would say, somewhat addictive once you start seeing the possibilities and the lightness and the love that you can have in yourself. It is hard to move away from that, because who wouldn't want that? I mean, that's
Yeah,
just great.
yeah. This is the problem. This is the basic problem. We have to see something about us that we have not seen before. I mean, we have seen it sort of, but we have not been very positively expressive in a simple way about that.
Yep.
And this is now happening because of this quantum science we are using to study ourselves. So what happens is that ordinarily, we become very aware that we have physical power. We can feel that in our navel chakra, this where the navel is.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel the energy whenever you are feeling power or willpower. You will see that there is energy in your navel chakra. So this willpower is due to our physical security being satisfied. We are healthy, we are getting food. But when we are enervated, you will find that that willpower is not there anymore, it disappears. So that's a very basic willpower we're talking about. That's about physical power. And then we have mental willpower that is in the brain, that is in connection with the brain and the mind. So we have the mind, and then mind can organize these physical powers even better than physical power and feelings about it by themselves. And so the mental power is now the governing power. Everybody is keen about, okay, how much mental power do you have? Okay, but these things are not common to everybody in the same amount. There are strong people, there are weak people, physically speaking. There are strong mental people or weak mental people, figuratively speaking. People are not created equal. But we have created the democratic vision, democracy, where we assume that all people are created equal somehow. Well, in quantum physics, we have to change that. All people are created with equal potentiality. But even the potentiality of strength, physical strength, is not equal for people. Even for potentiality, mental strength is not equal for people. What is equal then? What is equal is our access to the spirit, access to the divine, access to the oneness, access to the wholeness. This is where everybody is common. Everybody has the same potentiality. So we call it spiritual power. This spiritual power is what humans sought all through our 7,000 years history when spiritual power was discovered, maybe even before then. But you know, with the advent of recent times, scientific materialism, matter is everything philosophy that many scientists are following today, we have given up on these values, these archetypes, which gives us spiritual power, love, beauty, goodness, truth, justice. Truth is no longer valued any place. Justice is no longer valued in the way that it should be formulated. Of course, beauty, artists still follow that, thank God. Love, people still try to do that, thank God. But goodness is the archetype which is basic. And this is going away from our society. Yes, we can still love intimate people who are intimate with us. If we can still love people in our family. We can still love our brothers and sisters. But we do not have this goodness that we could extend before to anyone, irrespective of his creed, color, culture, irrespective of nationality, irrespective of national origin and all this. This we do not do anymore. We have lost this capacity. There are always this 40% of people who don't have altruism. But now, even people who have altruism, they have also picked up this scientific materialist idea that there exist no values. They are not scientific. They are just imaginations. And that has affected the mindset of so many people that basically people have given up the idea that you can love your neighbor and it's a good thing. Neighborhood don't exist anymore. We have only people of the internet who are strangers that we relate with. We don't relate with neighbors. We don't relate with real people who are not my family. So in this way, we really have lost something. And until we bring back this idea of goodness, this good evil fight, where each side thinks that the other side is the evil.
Yep.
Why? Because really, if the concept of good goes away, how can we distinguish? Some people are mentally powerful, something prefer the physical or power of wealth and whatever they define their power. But it just is a question of attitude. Okay, we can still see that little bit better is still a little bit better, so we can sort of vote in that kind of way, so politics still can survive in some ways. But more and more, people are really getting to the lowest common denominator, which is the base level human condition, where negative emotions prevail. And so this is why we see so many dictatorships around the world, and so many people are attracted naturally to dictatorship because they think that so long as they side with the dictator, they can be as they are, which is very, very negative to other people, negative to people that I don't like, negative to people who are different than me. So they become racist, they become homophobic, they become sexist, all that stuff.
All that division stuff. Hey, I want to plug this in there because I want to encourage anyone who's watching or listening. I got my neighborhood together 2 years ago and I try to do dinner every 3 months, but the same people keep coming. So I'm going to put this out loud. There's this community of it's called iVillage community. Jason was on the show a while back. So I'm investing some time in that because at this time as well, just like you said, to bring my neighbors together again. Because I mean, we're right here together. And I feel that is so important. So I don't mind taking a step and being that person who brings us all together because we are all different. And especially now where differences are just to divide you, let's come together with a common goal of connection and goodness. And I believe that people are inherently good. And I know a lot of people who do not believe that or adhere to that. What would you say to that? That's challenging. Right?
Well, I think we have really lost something in the process of the trend that we created in education. People have always needed education because the reason that we still have good people around us, the reason for that is very simple. We have a phenomenon called reincarnation. This is a recently discovered scientific phenomenon, although the idea has bit common in Eastern religions, but the scientific verification and the scientific theory was only provided by the more recent science. Quantum theory gives us the idea of non-local memory. Memory can exist outside of space and time. And so what we get from previous lives are these memories of character traits and habit patterns from past life, memories. They are non-local. They are outside of space and time. So they travel from here into some non-locality, non-local domain, that second domain of reality that I spoke earlier. So they stay there for a while, and then they are invoked in some future human being, in a baby, who inherits that particular non-local behavior. And so that's what reincarnation is about. So what happens is that the development of this embodiment of these archetypes, virtues, being good as a easy without effort thing, that takes many incarnations. Some people already have done that. And this is why there still are good people. So we have about 15% or so people who are genuinely good. And they
Well,
are the
I'm
ones.
hoping I'm in that percentage.
Yes, you are indeed. Don't doubt about it.
Thank you.
Don't even doubt it. You can tell very easily because you feel those. I mean, I can talk with you and immediately feel that yes, you have the empathy required. And this is the crucial difference. Some people have that empathy naturally. Some people have to cultivate it some more. But that's just that basic altruism. If you have that empathy, plus you have taken a little bit further based on your past incarnations, then you already are transformed enough not to believe that you are what you are and you cannot change. That's fundamentally all it takes. You just have to believe that this negativity that is coming to me is not me. It can be separated. I don't have to be that. Don't have to succumb to that. Instead of holding to the idea that all people are negative and I just have to do the best I can, everybody is enemy and I have to fight. So
Oh,
this they
it's
are ready to
exhausting.
fight. That becomes
Yes.
the motto of this. And
Oh
it's
my gosh.
unfortunate because everybody uses that language of fight. Even people who are the good people who have some idea of positivity, even they, when they talk about, they will use the same language of fighting. No, there is no fight. We're fighting with ourselves. There is no big fight.
Exactly. Okay, our time is going very quickly, which I have to check the time sometimes because I produce the show as well. And I wanted to get into just the basics. Okay, if you don't mind me, I'm reading from your website for a second. So quantum science. I want to get into basics of this, and then I want to ask you potentially for a study or two that you think are really, really great. Okay, so quantum science is based on consciousness first, then quantum physics. The tenets of quantum physics: non-locality, we are all interconnected, tangled hierarchy, as expressed on your website. In our brain, we become one with the neuronal images of an external object because of a tangled hierarchy of circularity. And then the third tenet is discontinuity. The discovery of something new of value in thought is a quantum leap of aha insight. All right, tell us a little bit more. Again, being as basic as possible,
Yes,
knowing
of
this is
course.
not basic.
So non-locality is the basic thing of building community. This thing I'm
Yeah.
talking about, of building even altruism, that's a non-local idea of how can I connect to somebody else? I mean, it is a fact that nature builds us with survival orientation, as Darwin discovered, and no disputing it. Survival motif is the big motif for a long time in our evolution. Animals all evolved because of this, basically the survival motif. That fundamentally changed to higher motif only when we started becoming human with that self-domestication process. This we have to understand completely and accept. The survival motive has governed us. It has already built into us negative emotional brain circuits. It has built into us a certain amount of selfishness, me-centeredness. We cannot be any other way. This is the way we have been. So that's already with me. What saves us, the saving grace, is the fact that we have potentiality. This is what quantum physics tells us, that is so revolutionary compared to Newtonian physics, where everything is as it is,
Ugh,
and you cannot change it. Quantum
how
physics
boring
has
is
no
that?
because there are potentiality. If you know how to access potentiality, that is the job of conscious people, and you can invoke potentiality that will change you. And that ability came to human beings some 70,000 years ago with the process of self-domestication. So this has been very fundamental. Then how far do we want to take it? That requires making further effort. And this is where we have recently in America, there's a lot of talk of what is manliness, what is basic aspect of being a man or being a woman, what does it,
Yes.
well, this is what it means. I'll tell you what it means according to quantum physics. Manliness or womanliness is to recognize that I have potentiality and I can change. This is the idea that really separates the chaff from the wheat. People who have wheat, humanness, they are aware that we have potentialities and we can change. People who are still animals in their core, they don't have that awareness that they have potentiality and they can change. This is the fundamental difference. So man up or woman up just means recognize that you have potentialities that you can change. When we start this changing, we immediately recognize that creativity is not something foreign. I have this capacity. Creativity is just saying, first of all, saying no to conditioning, just as our ancestors were able to do 70,000 years ago. They said no to the conditioning of animality, that any threat comes and immediately you become violent. They said no to that. So saying no to a conditioned pattern is the basic key. As soon as you have said no, then only a little bit of work, little bit of meditation, that's all it takes to get the intuition where and how you will make the change. And now many people have made the change, so they can even tell you that, look, there are these archetypes, you explore them, like you can explore the archetype of love, you can explore the archetype of goodness, how to help people. I had to literally, we forget. So when I started changing, I had forgotten everything. When I started changing, a teacher came along and he said that, look, why don't you practice simple giving? So he gave me a recipe. There were a lot of, this is 1980s, and there was a recession in America. There was a lot of homeless people, and as soon as I got out of the campus, university walls, immediately I would see homeless people on the street. So his advice was, take a whole bunch of coins in your pocket, and just the first homeless person asks you, just give the person, and then watch yourself, what happens. So I started watching myself as I gave, and indeed, I noticed that when I gave, I didn't want to give. I didn't want to give, and I was always finding excuses. Excuses like, oh, this fellow will just waste it on marijuana. This fellow will drink it away. He will not use it for any constructive purpose. Why should I give? All these ideas came into my head. So I got tired of these negative reactions. And then one day I asked myself, why don't I ask? So I asked a guy. And again, synchronicity. This guy is a genuine person of need. So he explained that, look, I got married and we recently had a children. So my wife had to give up her job and I don't have a job. And so what do? We'd have to give up our house. We live in our car. And with this young child, she is occupied with just growing that child. And so I have to beg because I cannot even find the time to look for a job. But the child absolutely has to have food. And I tell you, that day I took a quantum leap of learning how basic it is that we expand our consciousness and start giving with that spirit of including the other. I never had any difficulty in giving to a beggar. So this is the thing, this is the basic of altruism. And the important thing that you have to remember, that our consciousness is capable of forgetting everything. In Sanskrit, this is called dosha, defects of the mind brain. We forget that we have this quality. As soon as you remember the quality, it will come back. It will come back, and as soon as it comes back, then I discovered that, no, I have this ability. I can be nice to people. I can be good to people. I don't have to be jealous. We don't have to be violent. We don't have to command them, manipulate them. I don't have to have supremacy over them. All these things we can overcome so easily.
It is. It's just like it is. It's just letting go, trusting. Oh my gosh, your schools in terms of quantum activism, quantum life coaching, quantum healing and nutrition, quantum spiritual. I mean, and then there was a blog that you wrote about quantum politics. There's so much we could go into. Yet, okay, I want to get to the Just Be practice in just a minute. But I'm going to ask this final question. I think, out of everything that you've written, what is your favorite book now? What do you look at and go, oh, that's good?
That is a very hard question.
I figured it would be.
We just published a book, Valentina and I just published a book called The Return of the Archetypes.
Okay.
This one I really like, because over the years, my concepts have only deepened and much better expressed. So this book expresses the ideas, not only my ideas, but also Valentina has added sufficient amount of stuff that only women can address, because love is very basic to her, and archetype of love, although I have explored it like for 40 years and essentially understood a lot about it, and I achieved a lot of love inside of myself. But for Valentina, it's kind of innate, and I cannot be innate about this. All this is learned. So addition of her in my work has been very fruitful in the sense that the woman's point of view is included, and I value it very much. This is a transformation that we have to do with the leadership of women and men both. And we have to learn to overcome our differences and integrate with our womanhood and manhood. People have been talking about this integration, beginning with Carl Jung, but we are very far from integrating this, and we have to. This is a must. So as we do it, the archetypes become very important, and especially the male-female difference of path become very important. Because even among the men, the woman's path may be preferable, which is the path of love. Whereas even with women, sometimes man's path may be preferable, which is the path of wisdom first, thinking, intuition, with the thinking modality first. So both of this, I achieved my spiritual, whatever you should not really call it an achievement, but transformation. Whatever transformation has happened, it is always directed from the mind, thinking modality first, higher thinking, and then feeling. Feeling has always been a bit secondary. Whereas for Valentine, it's the other way. Women, it is the other way. Feeling first, heart first, and then the brain. So these two paths, by necessity, of course, you have to do one with the other. Simultaneously doing both is very, very difficult. I'm not aware of anyone who has ever done it simultaneously. Maybe in the future we can develop such a system where we can do it simultaneously. But usually what happens is one path is preferred, and women's body and tradition, I think, prefers the heart way, and the men's body and tradition, the brain prefers the intellectual way. So however it is, we have to do both. We have to quantum leap at the brain, we have to also quantum leap at the heart. And so all this is explained the best in the book, Return of the Archetypes.
Very good. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the practice today, even though there would be so much more to talk about. What do you think, and feel would be the best for us
Just
today?
Be practice.
Okay, let's make an intention. This is the practice of creative intentionality. That phrase was created by my friend Gioacchino Pagliaro, an Italian transpersonal psychologist.
Okay.
Creative intentionality. We start with the intention for wholeness. So first we sit comfortably. We create a little inspiration in us. Inspiration is expansion of consciousness. If you are listening to this course between me and Edith, I'm sure you are expanded already, that we call inspiration. In this inspired mode, let's intend that we want to be whole. We want to achieve wholeness. We don't want conflicts. Wholeness means to live without conflict. Conflict separates us. Conflicting ideas, dichotomies, dualities, they separate us. We want to integrate all of these conflicting ideas that come to us, ego, and then beyond ego, good and evil, creativity and conditioning, all these conflicting ideas. There is no either or. Conflicting ideas, both are needed. It is not right to see that something is not needed. Is the evil completely not needed? No, we need some of the violent ways sometimes and see that they can be used in good ways, like a surgeon used the same knife as another person uses to kill, to heal another person. So it's not the instrument, it's not the idea, but it is how you use the idea that is what is important, and that is called integration of two dualities. So this is the intention that we have. We integrate all dualities. In the second phase, now expand this to the goodness of everyone. Let this intention lead to greater good. At the third stage, we realize that all our intentions, they come to fruition because of choice. We choose the course. And where we choose is not the ego. Where we choose, where we call upon the oneness consciousness, all that is the ground of being. So we pray in the third stage for our intention being in consonance with the intention of all that is, with the intention of the oneness consciousness, movement of that oneness consciousness. Let my intention be consonant with the intention, the movement of consciousness. After this, we become silent. Be silent for at least 1 minute. And when you practice at home, stay in silence for at least 5 minutes and wait for an intuition to come. These three aspects, inspiration, intention, and intuition, they go together. If you can bring your life to these three practices, in addition to all the practices that you do anyways, these three practices in your life, then eventually you will learn how to make your intentions come true. And let those intentions always be towards increasing your humanity and decreasing your animality. Thank you.
Open my eyes up. I had a moment, because I always talk about my experience through this. My literal brain started moving. So neat. And I love wholeness too. Oh, so juicy. Hey, hey, I want to thank you again so much for putting your heart and dedication into like 87, however many years, so many years you've been doing this, and your books and the school, and just it's just so wonderful to have people that are so dedicated. I include myself in that, even though you and I are very different. But this is just, it's a path for me that I can't sway from it. I have to do the show. I have to do this work. So thank you so much. And that was a lovely Just Be practice as well. Okay, signing off until next week. Inspiration, goodness, truth coming out of here. All right. See you later. Thank you.
Mhm. Bye.
Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.